Hello, YouTube and Whooper Club fans. I'm Michael, aka Fruit Taco, aka the coach of the Route 1 Birbs, here bringing you another feature match from the Whooper Club League's 12th season. And this week starts our playoff coverage. That's right, the regular season is done and in the books, and from this point on, it is win or go home. And to help me cover this match today in a bit more detail, I have Chad, the coach of the Seattle Steamrollers, joining me today. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Excited to provide some commentary without having to make you any work to set up slides. So it's a
That's the
win-win.
dream. So this week, the Johto conference had a play-in week due to the extra teams making the cutoff. So while there were only a couple matches, we've still actually got a very good one for you today. It's my very own third-seeded Route 1 Birbs going up against the sixth-seeded City Mudkips, led by my good friend Tyler. I may have the seed advantage, but I actually got stomped by the Mudkips just last week in a devastating 0-5 loss at the hands of the monstrous Titan. Can I flip the script on the Mudkips and pull out the win this week? Well, let's find out. My Birbs are Chien Pao, who cannot Terra, Halucha, Iron Moth, Salamence, Lucario, Gardevoir, Florges, Magnezone, Electros, Tinglu, and Slowbro. We'll be going up against Weavile, Iron Jugulus, Tinkaton, Great Tusk, Armarouge, Satitan, Breloom, Alomomola, Kingambit, Slowking, and Clodsire. Looking at the speeds, I'd say speed is definitely in my favor, with the first, third, fourth, and sixth fastest Mons, although the Mudkips can certainly overcome that with the likes of Slush Rush or other speed boosts. I'll be taking an aim at the Mudkip's ground, fairy, and fire weaknesses, and can expect my opponent to maybe go after my own fairy weaknesses, as well as poor resistances to things like ghost, ground, fire, and water. Chad, what do you see when you look at this matchup?
Yeah, I kind of look at the teams holistically and also based on their past performance. While the Music City Mudkips did defeat you the week previously, I would honestly definitely favor you coming in based on past performance and especially based on how the Music City Mudkips won. I think that the Music City Mudkips have had a good season, but I think most of their wins have come by a slush rush sweep by Titan, which is very powerful, but it is something that you definitely can prepare for. So I think I would expect the teams like I don't think the Music City Mudkips should mix up. I think it's totally fine for them to go to a Titan win, especially because that's what's been working for them in the season. But I would expect them to focus a lot on how they would break through your checks and stuff early in the match. Because like I would assume that you would bring some walls that would help kind of like stop that, or maybe something like like Thunder Wave, or maybe an alternative weather setter or something like that. Just because I mean, the Titan sweep did go well last week, but you are the back-to-back champ, so I think it would be fair to say that you would probably come up with something to deal with it.
I definitely am paying more attention to it this week.
Yeah. And then from your perspective, obviously you would know better than me, but I think setup sweepers would be good versus the Music City Mudkips. Obviously, with the notable exception of the Clodsire being unaware, I think a lot of teams this season kind of rely on unaware Mons to stop setup sweepers. But I think that's where you can kind of start looking at your team as a whole, right? Because basically, you can have a plan to get through. You can have a plan to get through Clodsire, and then you can have your setup sweepers. Because I think you do have quite a lot of setup sweepers. You have Salamence, you have Iron Moth, you have Chien-Pao, you have Halucha, you have Lucario. And all of those I think are very powerful versus the team. Maybe we talk about it a little more later, but I really like Lucario this matchup. But yeah, I think the extreme speed is very good, especially for dealing with the decent Titan sweep. I would also maybe expect some sort of like Tech Terra to deal with the Titan setting up. Maybe a defensive type on Slowbro or something where it would be able to kind of like get a prediction on what move they're going to use and then survive a hit and maybe do like a T-Wave or attack it or something like that.
Sure, yeah. Last time Tyler brought Great Tusk, Slowking, Jugulus, Breloom, Titan, and Armarouge. And I think like the bulky Tusk and Titan did great for him, supported by like the Slowking and Breloom, with just like Specs Hydreigon actually absolutely shredded my team too. So I think he's probably, yeah, like you said, kind of going to go with a similar game plan, kind of go bulky again with like the Titan and the Jugulus. It wasn't Hydreigon, it was Jugulus. And then, I don't know, maybe like Kingambit or Tinkaton over Armarouge for, kind of more bulk. Excellent, like Chien Pao. resists. So I'm thinking like my plan, like looking at this, is that I'm gonna have like I just have to win like the battle of positioning, not giving him chances to set up the Titan for free, chipping down the bulk, and then yeah, like you said, I've got so many threats that if I can just kind of delay that Titan long enough, I think I can get into a position to set up and really just go to town. And you'll see that I'm actually bringing the exact same 6 Pokemon as I did in my loss. So,
Mhm.
well, let's we'll see how that goes. But I mean, I think it made sense. Florges, I think, was too passive for my game plan this time. Lucario and Gardevoir, like you said, I think Lucario like was really has like a good offensive, but it's just like for its middling speed and kind of frailty, I thought there was just two there wasn't it didn't have as many opportunities as I was looking for, and then Magnezone just has a bunch of bad matchups against this team.
Mhm.
Electros I was thinking about bringing, but ultimately just kind of cut it because I liked the other 6 more. Yeah, you have any other thoughts to add before we jump into what's actually coming?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Electros not coming. I think Electric doesn't have the best offensive matchup in this. And then I think from your so like how I always like to handle really big setup super threats, especially when you don't have an unaware mon, is I think it's important that every Pokemon be able to put out damage, especially for belly drum sweepers, because like if you think about it, right, like if they do belly drum, they're going to be at most at 75% HP after they belly drum, and that's if
Mm-hmm.
they have a citrus berry.
Yeah.
And then if they have a citrus berry, then they can't have heavy duty boot. So if you keep stealth arcs up, then that's another 25% you get off, right?
Yeah.
So then if you just attack them while they're setting up, even the most like middling Pokemon possible can probably do, say 30% if you make sure they have good coverage moves. And then they're down to like, 20% or whatever. And then you can just pick them off with a priority move. So like I really think and I know from looking at the replay that I don't think this was exactly a game plan, but like how I would have personally probably approached this is I would have made sure that all my mons had some sort of offensive pressure and then maybe done priority. But I think it's probably just a style thing. So
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and we'll let's just get into it. Let's start hopping into what's actually coming to the match. Well, here is the team I came up with, and like you said, this team was created with generally kind of offensive pressure in mind. It didn't entirely end up that way, but that's kind of what I was starting off with. But first thing I have here on the screen is not that. It's in fact defensive Hawlucha with just enough speed to outspeed Armarouge and Adamant Great Tusk. Last time I went with an offensive Moldbreaker Swords Dance set, so this is a pretty big change from that. With safety goggles, you can see this is my hard Breloom counter to absorb spores, and its defensive typing is actually pretty useful, resisting all of Breloom and Great Tusk stabs. Brave Bird lets it hit back against those two threats, as well as be good neutral damage, and U-Turn lets it gain momentum, while Roost keeps it healthy enough to defog away any hazards. Well, it's not the bulkiest thing alive. It actually takes under half from Breloom's 5 hit Bullet Seed, and Jolly Great Tusk's Ice Spinner, as well as Specs Jugulus's Dark Pulse, so it actually, in this specific matchup, can be a nice little defensive pivot. Lastly, Terra Fire on it lets it resist ice and fairy moves while still resisting grass, but that's just like a real niche. Maybe I need to, live in Ice Shard or something. What do you think about Halucha here?
I it seems like a pretty solid set to me. The one thing that stood out to me was the unburden ability. Just I mean, maybe there was a reason to do it, but I personally would have maybe leaned limber. I know that it's probably a niche thing, but
Yeah, it was just for if I get knocked off. Like maybe like Brave Bird's decent neutral. Like maybe I can just put some pressure
mhm.
on because I mean, Limber was good, but I didn't see myself really just going in on any switching into things that I thought would actually be having T Wave in this match. So I think yeah,
Yeah.
I think both of them were real niche. This was just the one that I went with.
Yeah, and I definitely like the tech Fire Terror because if I recall, I think that basically like the last time he had Titan, I believe the three moves he had was Earthquake, Play Rough, and Ice Shard, right?
Yep.
So if you're in versus him, obviously they can Play Rough or they can Ice Shard, which you can Terra to resist. I don't know exactly what the calcs are, but I would think that would be a good way to maybe get off one hit on Titan if you really needed to, like say you were close to full health or something. Because like obviously he's not going to EQ a Halucha and predict the Terrifier because that would just be ridiculous.
Yeah, if he
Like
did, he deserves to win.
yeah, that'd be pretty clutch. But yeah, I definitely think it's a good set. I think that it's a possible lead set, it's a possible counter set, so I definitely like it.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Next we have Ting Lu with just real standard, specially defensive set with a little speed investment just in case, I don't know, Slow King or Clodsire were trying to creep me for some reason. Saying that out loud, it sounds really silly though. But I mean, what? It's just 12 in speed. It's not that big a deal. Rocks instead of spikes I brought last time to hurt Titan and Jugulus more because, like I said, I think those are really going to be the crutch of his game plan. Earthquake is stab, Rock Slide to hit Iron Jugulus, and Taunt to prevent Slowking from using Slack Off, or more importantly, Chilly Reception. Terra Bug lets Tinglu resist grass, ground, and fighting attacks while losing its weakness to Ice and Fairy, which is kind of like the Terrafire. Very niche Terra that's neat to have, but probably not actually gonna use it.
Yeah,
What do you think about this?
my my only comment would be, and you've used Tinglu all season, so you would probably have a better thought of this than
Oh
me.
yeah.
I would maybe have leaned Ruination over Rock Slide. I totally get the Rock Slide for the Jugulus. I just think Ruination is maybe a little more universally useful. But I think that's probably a very minor comment. And for what it's worth, I do like the speed creep. Like it's only 12 EVs. Like what's the big deal? I mean, I'm sure anything that it matters on would be a roll anyways, and it's always nice to be able to counter team people like that. I would say maybe a little bit of it is you kind of sometimes you got to kind of know your opponent though. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
based on looking at prep or replays and stuff for the rest of the season, I don't know if the Mudkips would have been the type to speed creep in that way. So, but again, it's a very nitpicky thing. Like I don't
Yeah,
think 12
it's more
EV is
almost
never
just
going to
kind
kill
of like
anybody.
a habit, or just like like keeping good practices with those.
Yeah.
Like, and I think like the thing with the Clodsire and the Slowking was like they'd actually have to invest a decent amount, and it's like really even if they outspeed me, then like their sets are going to be weird enough that like I'm probably fine with it. But yeah, like I said, it's 12. It made me feel better just doing it, so
Yeah.
sure. All right, so we'll move on. Next is Choice Scarf Iron Moth. I have been loving this Pokemon this season. Timid nature and a lot of speed investment. This will outspeed Adamant Titan even in the snow, as well as Great Tusk at +1 or Scarfed Modest Jugulus. I had considered Booster Energy, but since this was meant more as an offensive check than a sweeper, I just liked the consistency of the Scarf, not having to care about when I brought it in. Flamethrower is good stab with overheat if I need the extra power. Energy Ball hits Slowking, Alamomola, and Great Tusk, and Dazzling Gleam hits Iron Jugulus as well as Great Tusk. And in fact, Terra Fairy actually turns Gleam into a guaranteed OHKO against no bulk Iron Jugulus and max HP Great Tusk. So this is definitely a better Terra candidate than my first two. What are your thoughts on my Moth set?
I think it's very standard. It looks very good. I don't really have too many comments. It seems like it's good coverage. I would be curious, does Iron Moth get Trick or anything, or is that not an option for
I
it?
don't think it does.
Okay. Yeah, because yeah, but other than that, yeah, I think it's very good. Like just looking at your team in general, I maybe we can talk about this later, but I would have maybe swapped the scarf on Chiempao over Iron Moth just
I
because
thought about
I
that.
think I think it would be nice to have kind of like a mindless like a mindless Titan counter, even if it's Jolly. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because like that would be like if belly drums up, like you don't even care because you can just sacred sword it or crunch it. But I mean, I definitely think you do have a lot of answers to Titan, but at least for me, I always like kind of the mindless answers, and then the mindless like, oh, I outspeed because I'm Scarf. It can be pretty nice sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely I had thought about that, but well, when we get to the Qianpao, we'll kind of go into what I was seeing with that set. Um,
Yep.
but next up, we'll go. My last defensive piece is max HP and defense Slowbro with relaxed nature to drop speed and only 22 speed IVs. What? Well, this lets me underspeed Slowking while outspeeding 4-speed EV Quagsire, which are both key things for me. Surf is here to hit Great Tusk on the special side, as well as hit things neutrally, Psyshock does 56 to 66% to special tank Clodsire. Slack Off is for recovery. And Thunder Wave helps me with speed control. T-Wave is why I want to be slower than Slowking, as Chilly Reception is a normal priority move, meaning that if he Chilly Reception's out, if I'm slower, I can then Thunder Wave whatever is coming in, such as Jugulis, Breloom, or most importantly, that's a Titan. Terra Psychic lets me lose the grass weakness and hit harder with Psyshock. This is a really important member of the team, I think, as it takes 87% max from max attack Adamant to Titan's Earthquake after a belly drum, letting it pretty much always get off that T-Wave if I can keep it healthy, which I will have to do my best to do because this is also a great switch into things like Great Tusk, and it's going to be real tempting to let it just rack up chip damage. I'm going to have to manage that Regenerator. What do you think about Slowbro here?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's a good set. I'm probably going to do some very in-depth, nitpicky comments on the speed IVs because, like,
Oh, go for it.
This is something that I think about a lot when I do mons like this. And just to kind of spoiler alert on the other team, he had a Slow King, and then it just kind of ran neutral IVs, no investment. Now,
Yep.
I think when you have two mons that speed tie, especially mons that are likely to come, right? Like there's pretty much like it's pretty easy with offensive mons if you speed tie, right? Because everybody's just going to run max speed. So you can just run max speed Timid or max speed Jolly or whatever, and everything's fine, right? But when you have a defensive mon, I think it's very important to think about, or maybe not very important, but it definitely is at least helpful to think about, do I want to underspeed this mon or do I want to overspeed this mon? Like, I think the worst thing that you can do is do no investment and not think about it. You know what I mean? Because, like, you know, you can underspeed a mon so you can get off a slow U-turn. You can overspeed a mon so you can get off an attack. But, like, to me, the worst thing that you can do is do no investment and hope for like a 50-50 tie, because then you don't know what's going to happen. So I like whenever I have defensive pieces at speed tie, you know, like a lot of times it'll come up at like 65 speed or 60 speed or 80 speed or whatever. Like, I always think about, do I want to put 12 speed in or do I want to take off a couple IVs?
Yeah.
Now, my only comment about your IVs is I would have probably left a few more than that. Like if you're trying to outspeed 4-speed Quagsire, I would maybe try and outspeed like 12-speed EV Quagsire. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I totally get maybe like going as low as possible to try and underspeed the Slow King, but I think that's probably pretty niche. You know, I mean, if you're taking that many off, I think you're probably going to underspeed it unless he's deliberately trying to underspeed you. And like, I personally would have just left it a couple extra to get, you know, more than 4 speed, but I definitely really recognize the deliberate effort to underspeed, and I think
Yeah.
it's
All right. Well,
cool.
let me let you in here on the secret check. We're gonna get in real close here. I just like the number 22, and it
I
worked.
guess that's
So,
yeah, it
I
definitely
was
worked.
when there was like there was, but it was like between like 22 and like 30 IVs or something. And it was like whatever, and
Mhm.
it's like I don't know. I just like the 22. I stopped thinking about it. Again, kind
Yeah.
of like you were saying. Some of that was kind of just anticipating my opponent. Yeah, it would have been smart to have a couple more IVs. But I really didn't expect my opponent to be thinking that far into does he want to outspeed an underspeeding Slowbro? And so I just went with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely nitpicky. And then my other nitpicky comment is I would have maybe picked a different Terra type. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could see, like, especially if you're worried about the earthquake, like maybe just Terra flying is kind of a tech for this to Titan. I don't know if the Terra Psychic does something for you specifically. Like, obviously it does a little bit for you defensively, but I would have maybe gone like a flying for like the ground immunity, or maybe even or maybe like a fairy resist type, like maybe another Terrifier, which I saw you kind of already did with the
Yeah.
Hawlucha, so I don't know if I would have done that. But again, pretty nitpicky, and I definitely could see the reason for Psyche. Like, I think offensive Terras are always good because it'll give you a little extra power.
Yeah, I think I went with the psychic, just because like smacking the Clodsire even harder was nice. Like it also could hit like Breloom or something if I'm making a prediction. But mostly,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just like Slowbro was going to be like such a core of this, um, kind of my response to several members of his team that like Slowbro was already bulky enough, it didn't necessarily need the resists.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked just kind of the the offensive boost on the Psychic type was nice, but also it was just pretty a fairly neutral um type defensively against his team, except for like the Jugulus, which like I was gonna stay in on that thing anyway.
Mhm.
And I think I just kind of went with that just so I didn't get in my head at some point in the game, go for a Terra, have it not pay off, and then suddenly have that flip my dynamic against something like Great Tusk or something, like if I went Fire or Steel or something. Um,
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, I don't think that Slowbro is probably the most likely Terra candidate,
no,
anyways.
no.
On this, so yeah.
All right, and so then we're moving on to my last two Mons are my sweepers, starting off with Salamence here with max attack and heavy speed investment with a Jolly Nature to outspeed max speed Tinkaton. Lumberry makes this a backup Breloom switch in, as well as letting it absorb a Toxic, Burn, Thunder Wave, whatever, while it tries to set up. Dragon Dance lets me boost to sweep. Dual Wing Beat is spammable stab that also shreds Breloom and chunks Great Tusk. Earthquake hits the steel types in Clodsire, and Terra Steel Ironhead lets me eat an Ice Strider from Titan, an Ice Spinner from Great Tusk, or a Playra from Tinkaton and fire back with a big hit. Intimidate helps with switching in, and I'm pretty sure Tyler has always brought Supreme Overlord on King Gambit, so I just wasn't particularly worried about the Defiant, but I did think about that. Terra combined with Lumberry should give this thing plenty of mons to set up in front of, such as Breloom, Clodsire, Slowking, as Tyler usually doesn't run much coverage on it, and a couple other mons. I thought this was actually just a pretty solid set here. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a solid set. I was originally thinking maybe a dragon move would have been nice, but honestly, looking at the team, there's a couple of fairies and steel types, and I think that the coverage is great as is. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say. The you know I think the Lumberry's fine. You can maybe get a little more interesting with the item, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you can't go wrong with Lumberry. So
Yeah, no, I think like the like boots or something would have been like real reliable, but I think like I was seeing it because I think Earthquake does like about like 70-75% to like the standard special tank Clodsire.
hmm
So like that was actually like a real good candidate to set up on. Like
hmm
I can Dragon Dance, eat a Toxic, smack it with an Earthquake while it tries to get off another Toxic or something, and just kind of start going to town. As well as like same with like Breloom and Spore. So I thought it just like I really thought there were going to be some good chances to set up with Men's here, and I liked the Lumberry on that. But
hmm
yeah, there were certainly a couple other options I could have gone with.
yeah.
But last but not least, we have Chien Pao here with boots instead of the choice band it had last time. Max attack adamant with a hefty amount of speed to outspeed no speed investments a Titan in snow, as I expect Tyler to be running something like max HP, max attack, but he definitely could, if he was going to change something up from, his sets last time, that would be one of them that I could see him doing. Swords Dance lets this thing sweep with Ice Shard to hit weaknesses and outspeed opposing priority. Sacred Sword for the Steel types and Titan. Crunch for Slowking and General Stab. At +2, I easily do at least half to any max HP, max defense wall he brings, and straight up Oko the vast majority of sets I actually would expect him to bring. So once I scout my opponent's Terra and get some chip on some of the walls, I can bring this in on something like Slowking or Clodsire or Click SD, and like that's a real good chance that that's just a game.
Mhm.
You had some thoughts on Scarf's Titan, which or not Scarf's Titan, Scarf Chien Pao, which I do also like a lot. But what do you think about what I ended up going with?
Yeah. So I definitely like this set. Like, don't get me wrong. But like I look at matches in two different ways. I look at it and am I trying to win the match or am I trying to not lose the match? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I think if I were you, I would be looking at this as I'm trying to not lose the match. You know what
sure.
I mean? Like I think if you avoid the sweep, you're very likely to win. So I would be optimizing for not losing the match. And to me, not losing the match is taking a scarf Chiempao because and I didn't look at his sets of detail. Maybe he normally does run max HP, but like I just think that that's kind of a brainless counter. And then I think also in terms of setup sweepers, both of your sweepers are on the physical side. And then I think if you ran a scarf, you could have brought like a sweeper Iron Moss set, which would have been on the special side. I think that's kind of a minor comment.
hmm
I think the main thing would be just how I'm approaching the match. And I would approach this as I'm trying not to lose versus I'm trying to win. So
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I like that idea. Like, are you trying to win the match? Like, are you trying to kind of race your opponent? Or are you just trying to not lose it and you're just kind of playing the long game? And as long as you just can avoid a couple bad situations, like you're just confident that you're going to out trade them and take home the W in the end. Yeah, so I don't know, any last thoughts about kind of the team as a whole? Any kind of like holes you see in it or anything? Or you ready to just kind of get on into the Mudkips?
yeah, no, I mean, I think the team looks pretty solid. I would say the main thing, which I think you already called out, is to me it would be very important to keep Slowbro healthy to be able to take a Titan hit after belly drum. But that would be probably the only thing I would be really watching out for with it. So
Yep. All right, well, let's move on to the Mudkips and see if they've made any big changes since last time. As I expected, Tyler is bringing mostly the same mons, dropping Armor Rouge for Clodsire. Starting off for the Mudkips, we've got Breloom here. We can see it's a dedicated Chien Pao check. Focus Sash letting it live, a boosted Ice Shard, and KO back with Mach Punch. Spore is always useful utility, with Sword Stance and Technician boosted Bullet Seed letting it do some potentially big damage to the other mons as well. 4-hit Bullet Seed is a roll to KO defensive Slowbro and max HP Ting Lu before any boosts. And I see Terrifier as another way to live in Ice Shard as well as resist a fire move. But I don't know, I think maybe Terra Steel to resist Ice, Flying, and Psychic would have been my choice there instead. What do you think about the Breloom set here?
yeah, so I don't hate the Breloom set. I think it's fine. I think it screams kind of dedicated lead ish to me, or like very lead focused set. You
Mm-hmm.
can lead with the focus sash. I definitely see this as a Champao answer, but I kind of saw this as more of a slow bro answer. Like when I looked at this, I saw this as okay. Breloom can break the slow bro, and then you can sweep with the Titan. Um, One of the things is like just looking at this team, and I know we're kind of talking this right off the bat, but I think the one substitution I would like really recommend with this is I would probably substitute Weavile for Breloom. I think Weavile does a lot of the same things that Breloom does. You can run Sword Stance on it. It can be like even with its reduced move set, it can be a good slow bro counter with a dark move. It gets Ice Shard for priority. I would probably do something like maybe Colberberry, like Terra Dark to maybe resist a dark move from Champao, or honestly, like I don't think he's brought Weavile that much, so he could maybe run near max speed and kind of count on maybe you won't run max speed on your Champao, and then you could just like get a physical move in. But I definitely like Weavile as an early breaker because I think Weavile has a great matchup versus Tinglu, which is a very obvious lead. Like it has a great matchup versus Salamence, Champao, Halucha, Slowbro. I think like out of your top mons, the only thing that I see it doesn't have a great matchup versus is Iron Moth. And even Iron Moth, if it's not running any speed, if you get an SD, like adamant Night Slash, I don't remember what it is. It is
Yeah.
a has a chance to Oko, or obviously after some chip damage and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Definitely something I wasn't. Yeah, I think I had looked at it, and I think I just saw that he wasn't favoring it this season. And didn't think too much about it, especially because I think if it wasn't like Qian Pao was still just a decent answer to it. If he needed to be jolly to outspeed, my adamant Qian Pao, and if he was, that gave me a little more wiggle room. And if he was adamant, then like Qian Pao just outspeeds and destroys it with Sacred Sword. I think I looked at the calc, and like Sacred Adamant Sacred Sword, um threw a Choppleberry in the snow for the defense boost is still like a 50% chance to Oko Weavile.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, no, and I honestly like I would maybe see Weavile as a possible Terra candidate. Like obviously if you lead it, it might
that would
die
be
early,
nice.
but well, because like I think Terra Dark would be good. Obviously you could Terra Water or Terra I think Terra Water Silver would be something you could watch out for, right, with that.
Yeah.
But if you Terra Dark, then the fighting is only 2x effective, and then the Choppleberry, so I think I said Colberberry before, it really takes the hit off. And just because like and again, like I'm talking about how Weavile can beat every bond. It can beat like it can beat Chien-Pao, it can beat Tinglu, it can beat Salamence, it can beat Slowbro, it can beat Hawlucha, right? Like, but like you don't have to rely it to beat on every mon. Like, as long as it does something, it'll be
Yeah.
good, right? And you can definitely play around the Chien-Pao. And like, I just think that its coverage is very good. And like, also just as I guess a general tip I would give people is, especially in the playoffs, it's kind of good to mix things up. Especially if you've played like the previous week. And like, I don't know, like, and I always like to have mons that I feel comfortable bringing any of them, and that like, just because I might favor something doesn't mean I always have to bring it, so I can kind of psych people up.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, I've got some uh thoughts on kind of like I also kind of like the Weavile for some other reasons, but I think I'll cover those a little bit later. But moving on
Mm-hmm.
to another mon that is actually coming, we have that max HP, max defense Great Tusk that Tyler brought last time with boots and rapid spin, making this a very reliable hazard remover. Earthquake and body press are its stabs of choice, with stealth rocks to chip down my team. Terra Steel lets it resist several of its weaknesses. All around a pretty solid set, but without Ice Spinner, it's really going to struggle against my flying types like Hawlucha and Mence. So maybe a bit questionable leaving that off here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a bit questionable. I could see the benefit of the ice coverage. I'm not 100% sure what that body press is doing. I mean, like, obviously it's coverage for Chien-Pao,
I
but I
think it's
think
also for
Chien-Pao,
Ting but
yeah,
like Ice Spinner also covers Ting.
but Ice Spinner has Tinglu. I guess that would be kind of what what I'd be getting at with that. And like, obviously it's stab, and like it does get the defense boost, but like, for me with Tinglu, like, I would not be scared if I had a Great Tusk out versus a Tinglu, because I can Ice Spinner it, and then I could Rapid Spin away all the hazard stack it
Yeah.
does. So and then, like, to me, the Rapid Spin would even be a benefit, because then I could just get speed and I could potentially sweep. I really don't understand what the heavy duty boots is for. I don't. I guess maybe he's worried about Tinglu's spike stack.
I did
I
run Spikes last time specifically because he has a lot of rock resists, actually.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think, like, I think it's kind of a no guts, no glory thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can just kind of, like, I like, again, like, in the playoffs. I think I would maybe be leaning towards more like, okay, like, what can I do to make this mon like really good? Like, like, I would maybe just run leftovers or something, and then, like, maybe if you get out 3 layers of spikes, it's bad, but like, just don't let your opponent get out 3 layers of spikes. That's then
Yeah.
you'll be fine. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the new Mon to the matchup is Clodsire, running a pretty standard, specially defensive spread, but with Gunk Shot and Stone Edge alongside the usual Toxic and Recover. I like Stone Edge here as it lets it hit Salamence and Chien-Pao as well as Iron Moth super effectively, who might otherwise be looking to switch in or set up on it. But while Gunk Shot is strong and smacks my fairy types, I really feel like having Earthquake for the steel types who are immune to Toxic probably would have been my call here. Anyway, Terra Water lets it resist ice moves while no longer being weak to Psychic or Ground, with a solid defensive type to let it just try and Toxic stall more effectively. What do you think about this Clodsire here?
I think that's fine. I would definitely agree that I think Earthquake over Gunk Shot. Like, Edgequake is a classic combo. Gunk Shot has 80% accuracy for only 20 more base power. I don't know, maybe he's predicting a Terra or something, like a Terra Fairy that he's worried
Sure.
about. But still, like, I don't think you've really brought your fairies. They're kind of like some of your lower tier picks, and I don't think. I mean, you never know, but I don't think I would be that concerned about the Gunk Shot or the poison coverage. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree.
All right. Well, now we have one of the monsters coming back from the last match is Choice Specs Iron Jugulus with max special attack Timid and enough speed to outspeed Adamant Hawlucha. Dark's Pulse one-shots Slowbro while Hurricane tears through most of my team and Earth Power hits my steel types with U-turn offering some momentum. This thing is a absolute threat, doing a third to special defense tank Ting Lu, which doesn't sound like a lot, but is very impressive. Terra Fire lets it resist ice and fairy moves that might be coming at it, but again, I think Steel would have offered those resistances with some added benefits, or you just go all in and go Terra Flying to absolutely destroy me if it is a good Hurricane day. What do you think about Jugulus here? I mean, it seems like it really only needs one move, and that's Hurricane.
Yeah, all you gotta do is just hit the hurricanes. If you hit the hurricanes, you'll be fine. I think it's a very standard set. I agree. Maybe the Terra Steel would have been a little better because I think you would pick up a couple more resists with that. That being said, I don't know if this is a super obvious Terra candidate. I guess I don't see a ton of I think a lot of these Terras would be fine, but I don't really see any crazy obvious super candidate besides maybe the Titan. If you're trying to sweep, but
Yep.
but yeah, I think it's a good set. You just got to hit the hurricanes. Even Specs Dark's Pulse can be really nasty if you get those flinches going. And
Oh
then
yeah.
I think the like I could see early game as a breaker. I know I talked about the hypothetical Weavile as an early game breaker or Breloom, but I think Specs Dark Pulse could be very good. If you get this in versus the Slowbro, obviously you're not going to stay in to take a Specs Dark Pulse, but there's not really a lot of stuff that would want to take a Specs Dark Pulse anyways. So
No.
yeah.
Yeah. We've got Slowking coming up next with max HP and special defense, and leftovers making this a thick special wall. Chili Reception pivots out and sets up Titan, Protect Scouts for choice locks, Slack Off keeps it healthy, and Shadow Ball is its only attacking move, with Terra Water letting it lose its dark weakness. I have to say, while I think this set is fine, it's probably my least favorite one here. Tyler hasn't seemed to run a very diverse Slowking sets throughout the season, and I definitely predicted something along the lines of this set and plan to exploit it. No coverage or status moves just makes this thing so passive, even if it can always chili reception out into something with a good matchup. The problem is, if Titan is dealt with, this set basically does nothing. Flamethrower and a Colbur Berry to punish Chien-Pao, Thunder Wave or Ice Beam for Salamence, Surf for Volcarona and Ting Lu. I think there are just so many other options to run here that I probably would have put something else on there over Protect or Shadow Ball. What about you, Chad?
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. So first of all, I kind of already talked about the IV thing, but I definitely think first of all, I think it's important to decide whether you want to outspeed or underspeed, which this set does neither. It just runs neutral speed. And secondly, I think that very clearly you would want to underspeed here to get off the chili reception. I mean, I personally, I mean, maybe you can put more thought into it, but I would probably even go so far as to run min speed,
Yeah,
relaxed or whatever with no IVs, just to be sure that I can get off the chili reception, unless you're hard reading that and also doing the same thing. I would I I would say that I think Protect is my least favorite move on this set. I think Protect can be a useful move, but I think you can, just get better at predicting. You know what I mean? If you're better at predicting, you don't have to worry about the Protect. And especially the fact that like non-stab moves, even though Shadow Ball's 80 base power, non-stab moves with no investment that aren't super effective don't do a lot of damage. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And if you're relying on Shadow Ball being your only damage output, you're going to be pretty disappointed unless it's super effective.
yeah,
Um, I think I would maybe drop Protect and then run a stab move as well. I don't think Shadow Ball is horrible for the slow bro because you can always fish for the spit F drop, but I just think it's really just it's a lot of it's kind of like setup bait, or it really doesn't do much without just the chili reception. And I mean, if you're going that hard in chili reception, I don't know if it does the ice train extender work on chili reception. I would maybe even just do that then. If you're really just running this as a pure support set, why not?
yeah.
Why not extend your train? But yeah, I don't know if I don't know if Slow King gets Thunderbolt or anything, but even something I think Thunderbolt would be cool. I think Water Stab versus and then Shadow Ball would be cool. I also don't really like the Terra type. I would maybe pick a more interesting defensive Terra. I don't know what offhand, but like just going obviously going water drops all your psychic weaknesses, but if you don't have a water move, why do you care if you're Terra Water? I know it's a good
Mm-hmm.
defensive type, but I think if you're trying to catch somebody by surprise, right? I could see a scenario where say it's the end of the game, both teams are whittled down, your Slow King's at 30%, and you're out and you're going to attack it, right?
Yeah.
What if he had a tech Terra so that he could get off one more chili reception and then set up a Titan sweep? I think that's a lot more high impact than just kind of going a generic Terra Water set.
Yeah, and I think something else I want to go into just kind of on these really bulky Pokemon Clodsire, like the Slow Twins. I mean, they're much more limited this gen, but so often Slack Off or Recover is basically Protect. Just because you're so bulky, I mean yeah, this thing about what's it looking at taking things from my team, he has some decent answers for some of my electric types, but outside of an electric attack and crunch from Chien Pao, you're probably not taking much more than 50%. And if you've got slack off and lefties, like it's basically the same move, and you can just fit that coverage option or whatever on there. Definitely something that I have been surprised that I haven't been running that much this season. And I think just with like Terra and stuff, like there's so many offensive options and stuff that like protect just seems like I'd always be like wanting to be get something more out of that turn, whether it's like a weird Terra and like a sneaky KO or whatever. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I
it,
was just gonna say, like, I was gonna really plus one that because I don't know, this season I've like I know that Mons have reduced movesets, but I felt really pressured on all my Mons like 4 moveset syndrome, and I think it's just really hard to justify protect. So
I definitely think that's another thing like with Terra is that like especially because like I have Qian Pao, which is like I think the biggest thing about this, as well as like Magnezone, like Pokemon with 4 times weaknesses are just constantly afraid of literally anything that breathes because they could just Terra and one shot you like without like anything crazy. And so you're always worrying about
mm-hmm.
like, well, what's going to be their dedicated check? What's going to be their surprise Terra check? What do I need coverage for? And like I definitely feel myself getting into that 4 move slot syndrome with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things because of those the always just the threat of Terra.
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right, but last up is the reason that the Slow King can afford to play such a passive set. The absolute monster that is Slush Rush Titan. Max attack and near max speed Jolly lets it outspeed max speed Scarfed Iron Moth, something I was not expecting as max HP had worked so well for him last time, but I definitely like this adjustment. Earthquake hits Steel types and Moth, Ice Shard hits Ments and anything faster than it, and Terra Fairy Play Rough demolishes anything after it gets a belly drum off. For reference, Terra boosted Play Rough after a belly drum is about a coin flip to straight up Oko max HP, max defense Slowbro. It is just devastatingly powerful. Anything you change about this Titan set? Because I don't think I see much that I would.
I think I would have looked at the calcs a little more. I would have maybe leaned into more of the Slowbro KO because I would bet that if he did Terra Ground, that Earthquake would be a straight KO after after a belly drum.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what like I don't know if the Terra Fairy is netting you any additional KOs on things, right? Like obviously it's nice to have the additional power, but like especially we can get like like if you're going to be really aggressive with it, like I think that the Slowbro is an obvious counter. So being able to do that. That being said, I think that this set would definitely wreck. And I think that that's something that I've seen preparing for him too. Is that like it's very obvious that Titan is the biggest star in the team, but there's still only so much you can do, and you really have to watch and make sure that it can't set up. So I don't have a ton of complaints about it. I think that the citrus berry is fine. I would be curious. I don't know. I didn't check, but I would assume that that if he did the EVs right to proc the citrus berry
Yeah,
after
he
2 stealth
has.
rocks, but yeah, that would be my only other comment. But yeah, no, I think it's a really good set. It's a really good Mons.
Yeah, no, I think the one thing that I see looking at this team here is that like I think when you're going for a very, kind of steamrolly setup sweeper strategy, like you need multiple options. And my problem with this team is that like sure, like Jugulus is a like very good breaker, but I also have like several options that outspeed and can deal with it. And like if Titan goes down, then like I don't see what this team's backup win condition is. Like I guess Swords Dance Breloom, some toxic stalling with Clodsire, but like it seems really reliant on the Titan. And like we were saying, like Terra just makes sure that like anything can counter anything if you want it to. And I think it's just a bit overly reliant on the Titan in the end. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree, especially because of I mean, I think you have Jugulus for offensive pressure and you have Breloom for offensive pressure, but other than that, I don't really see too much. I mean, I know that the other mons, like, as we talk about, Slow King is very static. And then Great Tuscan, Clodsire, I mean, like, like, okay, you can toxic stall a little bit, but can you really toxic stall that well if you only have 8 recover PP? And then I think the Great Tusk is fine, but I mean, like, I think he gets iron defense, right? Maybe he could have leaned in a little more to the body
Mm-hmm.
press if he wanted to run body press, and just kind of gone for like a rapid spin, like, iron defense type setup. But that being said, I I do think that this is a team that can win the match, but I think you need to be very careful with positioning. Like you need to like for me, like I would not bring this to Titan out until I had no other option. Like I would rather like sack him on than bring out to Titan at a non-optimal point because like if you bring it out too early, you're just kind of like what are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the Mudkips team. Two offensive juggernauts, three thick walls, and I don't know, a Breloom tying it all together. Will they be able to snowball right over me in the snow? Well, let's find out. Okay, hopping into the team preview, and I see that Tyler brought most of what I was expecting. I'm thinking it's probably Specs Jugulus and Defensive Tusk like last time. Slowking and Titan could have changed up their sets slightly, but my intuition on my opponent is just thinking they're not huge changes. Breloom could be Sash or Boots, which I'll need a scout for, and Clotsire, probably just a standard Toxic Hazard set, maybe? I felt pretty good about the Pokemon I brought. Chien-Pao looks absolutely incredible late game once I've got Chip on Great Tusk. Moth and Salamence both look like strong breakers or cleaners, and my defensive mons look good too, with Hawlucha being a good Breloom and Tusk answer, and Slowbro getting off some T-Waves against anything except, the Clodsire or the Great Tusk, which I'd love to hit offensively, so great. And then, Ting-Lu, if Ting-Lu just lives a couple of Hurricanes, honestly, that's all I want from it. Like, just please live a couple hurricanes, don't get confused. Looking at the Mudkip side, Titan and Jugulus are just as good as they were last time. Rocks, I think, are very important as they let Titan guarantee Oko Slowbro with that Terra play rough after a belly drum. He definitely needs to be careful with it, though, because a Sash or defensive Terra could really put it in danger, so breaking me down with Jugulus, Tusk, and Clodsire should definitely be his plan until he's scoped out my team pretty thoroughly. Chad, what do you see here before the battle has already started?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really see anything. I'm not really analyzing it in terms of like how the teams match up. I think in terms of leads, I think the leads that I would do if I were both teams would be I think I would probably do Halucha on your team, and I would probably do Breloom on the Mudkits team. So for Halucha, I like Halucha versus a lot of the defensive pieces. Like I think it's good versus Breloom, which I think is an obvious lead choice. I also think it would be good versus Great Tusk, and then versus the slower stuff like Slow King and Clodsire, it can just U-turn out. And then if he does lead Iron Jugulus, you can just go basically hard Ting-Lu. I think that's a pretty hard counter. And then as for Breloom, when I bring like a Focus Sash Pokemon, I always think about is it good? Like is it doable? Is the lead right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you have a Focus Sash on and you haven't brought the Mon out yet, it really puts a lot of pressure on you to remove hazards when you might not necessarily otherwise have to, because it kind of renders your item useless if your opponent gets up any hazards, right? So like I think Breloom would be a good lead because I think it has good matchups versus Ting-Lu and Slowbro. Obviously has a good matchup versus Champa, which isn't a super obvious lead. And I think it's just a general good offensive mon that kind of screams dedicated lead to me. Now, I know that based on which ones I'm suggesting, obviously Breloom was not good versus Halucha, but I just think
Yeah.
if I was on that team, I would have probably led Breloom. So
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's funny for my lead, I kind of went with like the kind of inverse of your approach. So looking at his leads, like I'm worried about Jugulus leading or like Tusk or Clodsire leading to set hazards, and like Tinglu just seems so safe here. It can set hazards, is my best mon against Jugulus, and the two Pokemon that it doesn't want to see, Breloom and Tusk, are like I can always safely hard switch to Halucha. So it's kind of like the opposite of your like, well, you can always lead Halucha and hard switch to Ting-Lu if you need to. And I'm just like, well, I'll just lead Ting-Lu and hard switch to Halucha if I need to. So
yeah.
yeah, I think they're both there, and it's yeah, just kind of pick which particular one you want.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think we'll jump into it and see how things go. So we're going to see Jugulus and Ting Lu come out. So obviously, like this is great for me, because I've got my special wall here against the his big special attacker. Um, he's in here. So yeah, I mean, like I definitely understand the Jugulus because like it just smacks things. But he's definitely kind of on the back foot here with the leads that came out. Um, Although, like we saw, like he could U-turn out, but like he could also we said, he still does damage to Ting Lu. Like he could potentially just try and start just breaking through everything right now. So we'll see that turn one, he does just go for the Hurricane, gets the big damage, and I'm going to get up my rocks and get a little lefties recovery. Um, like I think just like rocks was perfectly safe on my part, and I feel like he probably should have U-turned there. What do you think?
I definitely agree. I mean, like, I think Hurricane can technically be a 3-hit KO without leftovers, but you're counting hitting 3 Hurricanes, leftovers ruins it, and you're basically just letting free hazards happen. Like, I think a U-turn into Breloom would have probably been what I did there. I mean, you could have maybe gone Slow King, but obviously Slow King doesn't have any coverage versus this, so that wouldn't be that great in my opinion. Even Great Tusk, or I think would be good to set up rocks and threaten the body press, or close combat or whatever. But I know that this seems like good chip damage, but like I don't think you can count on those Hurricanes hitting, and even if they do hit, like you have plenty of opportunity to tank that.
And I
So
think like the other things, like especially after how good Jugulis was last time, that he should be like on the lookout for things like this. Is like Tinglu is clearly my special wall. It was last time. It's clearly going to be it again. Like he should be expecting that like this Tinglu has a plan for being in against Jugulis. And we'll see that turn two, he just goes for another Hurricane, and I do reveal that plan, which is Rockslide doing very good chip there onto the Jugulis. And even just now, that chip is, putting it in range of things like Gleam. It doesn't want to take, Brave Birds. It doesn't want to switch it on Surfs and stuff. Like, just that damage right there is already pretty huge. Any thoughts about that turn?
yeah, I mean, like I think you're doing perfectly good from my perspective. I would honestly stay in if I were you because you live the you. You live the next hurricane and you can kind of fish for a hurricane miss. If I were him, I would still switch out. I would maybe go Great Tusk this time so you don't lose the focus sash and try and get off like a free spin or something. But I definitely would not be staying in here. I think like one thing that I see people do is like they seem like they're committed. He decided turn one to go for hurricane. So now like he might be thinking like, oh, now I must commit to doing this hurricane thing. But
Yeah.
like you don't have to keep making a mistake just because you made a mistake. You know what I mean? Like I would have definitely looked at that damage, look at the hurricane hit chance, and just been like, well, time to do something else.
Yeah, it like if anything like the turn one, like me going for like safe rocks is like or a hazard of my choice, is pretty reasonable. And like Hurricane at least like I guess lets you confirm the Ting Lu set. But yeah, I definitely think switching, and we'll see here. Turn three, he finally does make the switch to Tusk with just absolutely takes nothing there. Yeah, I mean this Ting Lu's job is to live hurricanes and hit back at Jugulus. I just clicked more Rock Slide, and yeah, the Great Tusk switch is just super free, super safe here, and gives him like opportunities to like set hazards of his own, rapid spin, go for an attack, whatever. So definitely, finally, I think him making the right play there.
Yeah, I agree. And if I were him, I would probably be looking to go for a rapid spin here because I don't see any immunity on your side, and there's really no downside because the rapid spin would also probably give him potential speed advantage versus stuff that comes in. Obviously, besides like Scarf Mons, I don't know if it outspeeds Chimpao because of Chimpao's speed, but
Mm-hmm.
like I think a rapid spin here is very free, especially considering you have a Sash Breloom and you have a Titan that doesn't want to take rocks, and you have an Iron Juglist that doesn't want to take rocks. So
Yep. So yeah, I'm in here. I definitely don't want to stay in, and like Halucha and Slowbro are both fine switches here, and I'm gonna go for Slowbro just in case of an ice spinner, and there we go. See the body press just going for the KO. Yeah, like I said, like I might not have spun first. I might have gone for my own rocks first, just because like the chip is very valuable for like some of the other Pokemon to like be getting like guaranteed OKOs, but like the spin also just to preserve the sash is would have been absolutely huge there for him.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think Rapid or Stealth Rocks would both be defensible in my opinion, but I don't like. I mean, maybe he was worried about Ruination or something, but like I think I would risk that, So
Yeah. And so he's going to go out here into Slow King, who isn't going to take much of anything. I go for the Surf just in case he goes for knockoff or something. And I looking at it, like I probably should have just gone for T Wave here, but I didn't think he was going to switch into um something that like I was going to be particularly concerned about T waving there, but probably still would have been the best play. What do you think?
I mean, I think Surf is fine. I think you have good positional advantage now, and like I said before, I think if I were you, I would be trying to not lose. Like I don't think I would. I'd like obviously T Wave is nice, but like especially based on like how aggressively he stayed in with the Iron Jugulus, like I think you could maybe say, oh, okay, there's a chance he'll stay in, so I want to get the Surf off. I think the Slow King switch is fine. Shadow Ball, like that we saw in the set, is obviously good. Chip damage, you could fish for a split F drop. Like I think that overall it's a fine switch. But again, like if he rapid spin there, he could have just gone Breloom or something,
Sure.
like so.
Yeah, but we'll see him go for the Shadow Ball fish, and he gets the Spadef drop right away as I just go for the Para, which honestly I'm perfectly happy to paralyze Slowking. I mean I don't have any other status really, and like the T Wave covered a pivot, or it pairs Slowking and potentially stops a slack off or a chilly reception, somewhere down the road. Um, so yeah, although that Spadef drop is pretty annoying here. Any thoughts about that turn?
Yeah, I think the T Wave is good. I think the Shadow Ball is totally fine. I think both of I think like I would say setting up for next turn, I think the switch out on your part is very obvious. Like I think it would be very reasonable for him to predict a switch out. I would honestly maybe go for a chilly reception here if I was on his side. I definitely wouldn't go to Titan, but I think just getting the free switch would be pretty nice. So
Yep.
like the free switch advantage. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually like I said, I'm playing this like very position heavy match. And I'm actually a little bit concerned about him doing what you just said. I'm actually going to here stay in and go for a slack off, trying to scout a pivot. And he's going to Shadow Ball and get the crit on the Spadef drop, bringing my very crucially defensive piece down here just to 23%, which is not a good way to start off the match for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you staying in there wasn't super unreasonable. Like obviously you kind of got the unfortunate crit, but I think the overall strategy was sound. I think I would probably recommend the same strategy for next turn, just chilly receptioning out, because I think especially this turn, I would really doubt that you're going to risk your Slowbro getting KO'd. I mean, I don't know, maybe it lives after a recover, but you might be able to get a little
Yeah.
there. So
All right. Well, here we go. I definitely can't stay in here. So I'm going to switch out here into Moth, which covers a pivot decently well while not taking too much damage and being able to hit back. He gets another Spadef drop. This is just a very good Slow King. Although seeing Shadow Ball is making me think that he probably doesn't have both saying he probably doesn't have a psychic move here for Moth, as he'd probably rather have Surf for something like Ting Lu over that psychic move. So that's another reason I felt safe going into Moth here. But with the Spadef drop, that means that Surf would now KO. So I'm immediately thinking about switching again. You have any thoughts about all of this switching I'm having to do?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely not ideal. I think that this really shows the weakness of his Slow King setup. Because if he had Surf, he could have obviously gone for Surf here. And like just look at how much that Shadow Ball did. It did what, like 17%.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's, and like it's not like Iron Moth. I know it has some special defense, but I wouldn't say Iron Moth is like incredibly bulky. And like I just think that like I think if I was him, there's no way I could stay in here and Shadow Ball because I'd be worried about you like quiver dancing up or something. So I pretty much either have to chilly reception here or switch
Yeah, I
out.
mean Moth doesn't get Quiver Dance. It
Oh,
gets, but I was thinking that, so like the thing that it can do, like I was thinking about, was agility with Fiery Dance.
yeah,
Which is not guaranteed, but is just as scary, if not more.
yeah,
Because like with an agility, then like yeah, what is the Titans never touching me?
yeah.
Except with Ice Shard, which I resist. So, um, but yeah, no, but he just keeps clicking Shadow Ball, and he keeps getting rewarded for it. Unfortunately, for me, so. I'm going to be expecting a pivot here and can't just let Insta Titan for free, so I'm actually going to go back into Slowbro here. I'm sorry, no, I'm not. That's not spoilers. Shh. Switching to Mence to take a Surf, if he has it, maybe I can set up also covering like a potential Clodsire switch for the to while the special attacker. Tyler's just going to scout with Protect, and I see that his last two moves are definitely almost going to be for certain Chili Reception and Slack Off, meaning that this Slowking setup it's just setup fodder for Mence and Xian Pao now. So like even with only seeing two moves, I've basically scouted his set, and I'm definitely thinking of ways to take advantage of it further down in the match.
Yeah, no, and I honestly, I really don't like the protect there, right? Because like it's a full spadef set. You know what I mean? Like what's the most like maybe you'll take like 50% for energy ball or something, and you can get 33% back on switch out. Like if you wanted to stay in there for some reason, I would have just shadow balled again or maybe chili reception. Like
Yeah.
I don't really see what
Or
the
that's
protect
another
scout was.
situation where we had talked about before, where like if he is scared about, like even like probably like Specs Shadow Ball is probably doing like 60%.
Yeah.
That, it like just clicking Slack Off is basically the same as clicking Protect there, that he could have had a different move. But yeah, no, this is definitely a pretty good thing for me to figure out here early on. And like I said, just before, now I'm expecting the pivot, and I'm afraid of him letting in Titan for free. So I'm actually going to go back into my T-Wave Slowbro here, also taking the opportunity to get some more Regenerator recovery, and, he sees the Slowbro, and he does pivot out, and Jugulus is just completely free into Slowbro every time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think you really see the damage that those rocks are doing there. Again, like I think definitely taking the Ramson opportunity there would have helped out a lot, because I mean Jugulus was low before, but I wouldn't say it was like crazy low. You know, around 60% is definitely like doable, right? But
Yeah.
like now it's definitely getting low, and you like if you switch out here, which I would probably recommend doing a U-turn or something here. You're basically forced to get rid of the rocks before you come back in again, or else you're just going to be like ridiculously low on
Yeah,
HP.
so we're gonna
So
see like this turn here, like you said, like with that rock chip, it's like so low now that Tinglu is here basically exclusively for the Jugulus. Like now that I've kind of seen the slow bro set, like it can actually like very slowly maybe get some lefties recovery off on the slow bro while kind of breaking it down with like earthquake, but like this thing is already done its job. So, like I'm okay just switching into Tinglu here as effectively a sack. Um,
mhm.
and he's just gonna go here for the Hurricane, hit 3 of 3. And yeah, like honestly, I don't really care about it that much. Being like if he had missed that Hurricane, being able to freely go for a rock slide or an EQ or something, would have been great. But honestly, like I said, Tinglu has done its job. Although, at this point, future switch-ins to Jugulus are going to be very, very scary.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I still I don't really like how the Juggler system play, because you have to get very lucky. Like, he's hit three hurricanes, like he's gonna have to hit four hurricanes to KO you,
Yeah.
and like that's just like you got incredibly lucky, and the most you managed was like basically a 1-to-1 trade with Tinglu. I'm like, obviously the Juggler is still alive, but like it's
Yeah, like we said, I've got
pretty
plenty of
low.
answers to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. So, well, we'll see here that Tyler does make a nice play here, I think, switching to Tusk for free instead of taking the KO. I'm just in here trying to die and, maybe hit a rock slide if he misses Hurricane. And Great Tusk, like, real good restraint, not just going for the KO there and, like, seeing, like, wait, I can get a free switch into Great Tusk. Now, again, he's got an opportunity to, for some hazard play. And that's just very, very well done by his part there, I think.
yeah, I think it's a great switch, because like a 70% Tinglu isn't doing anything. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even if you do get the KO there, and especially because I don't think it's, again, like I think the thing that I would be most worried about if I was him would be Ruination. But I think with what you've revealed on your set, I don't think it's incredibly likely that you would have Ruination. And like I would definitely take this opportunity to set up for a rapid spin too. Like I don't even think I would necessarily go for the KO this turn because like
Oh yeah.
I think it's been pretty clear on that side of the field how much damage rocks are doing. So
Yep. So I get a little Lefty's recovery, and I go back out to Slowbro, already almost back up to full with all that regenerator, and he does just take the safe spin there. So honestly, I think that's like I think that was honestly I think we're both pretty happy with that turn. He gets the rocks away, which is really nice for him, and for me, like Slowbro is back up with 93% with forcing probably another switch out here and getting that last bit of regenerator HP. So after the Spadef drop and the crit earlier, this thing is already has like this Slowbro has already had almost twice the HP of a Slowbro in
yeah.
this battle. So like it's very nice that I've been able to get it all the way back up to here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Honestly,
yeah.
I don't know what I would necessarily do here if I was the music City Mudkips. I don't think I would stay in. I think I would definitely be a little afraid of the surf. I would maybe go Breloom or something, or I don't know how well Clodsire would take a water hit, but probably not super well. I think Slowking is an okay switch in, but you're definitely looking at like the non-stab Shadow Ball issue, and plus you're like I don't like having Pokemon that are paralyzed out because there's a 25% chance your turn's not going to go through. Which I know sounds kind of like a tautology, but like like do you really want a 25% chance that your like crappy Shadow Ball isn't even going to work?
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we had said before about like the Slowking set is like especially because like hail is or hail snow is already up right now. Like you're gonna want to stall out a little bit, which like it can against like the Slowbro. We've kind of established that neither of them is going to do much of anything to each other. The RNG aside, but uh, like it's another thing that's like yeah, like if he goes into Slowking here, like we're both in a little bit of a nothing situation.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, I'm looking at this here. I'm just gonna go for the safe surf because like it hits anything really except the Slow King. I am okay with the Slow King. Jugulus, would be scary, but like it's so low, like it doesn't want to switch in on a surf. I know that Breloom could have a sash in the back, like for that I could confirm the Clodsire's ability. Like it's just all around a pretty safe move for me here, which he does go out into that Slow King again, going to absolutely eat up the surf as now the snow is actually gone. So I was a little inaccurate on my part last time. This is actually kind of perfectly timed with the snow there. Um, and so yeah, but again, kind of we're at this. He's paralyzed. And we're neither of us can really touch each other. So it's a little just bit kind of prediction and positioning, which I definitely think as a coach, I have a little bit of the upper hand at here.
Yeah, I mean, I think a chilly reception is a decent play here. Like I think it gets a free switch in. Like I think free switch-ins are always good. I definitely would not be looking to go this to Titan here though. Like I would personally probably like chilly reception into Breloom or even Jugulus would be really cool because I like basically you have your 35% Jugulus that you can get off a free hit on if you get the chilly reception off this turn. And like I think Specs Dark Pulse looks pretty free at this point. I would assume it would at least two hit KO the Tinglu, even though
Mm-hmm.
Tinglu's so especially defensive. And like obviously you have a couple of resists in Halucha and Chimpao, but I don't imagine they're taking that incredibly well. So
Yeah, no. So we're going to say here, I'm gonna stay in here just go for the surf because I'm expecting another pivot, and Slowbro is just kind of versatile, and he goes right into the Titan, which is just it's really just kind of it's not I definitely think it's a misplay, but like rather than bad, like I would say it's short sighted. Like we had said that like the so Titan is so crucial to this game plan. Like with Slowbro not chipped at all, just going in here. I've already revealed T Wave. Like this is just definitely he needed to. This was just early for it.
I agree, and like I think one of the most common things that I see newer people do, like that I think doesn't work very well in draft, is they either bring too many setup sweepers or they bring out their setup sweepers too early. Like, I don't think there's really that much reason to have more than like two setup sweepers on your team. You know, maybe you could have like a third setup move as like a breaker thing, and then like in this case, like what is like I think like I know I've been talking about like all the misplays and whatever, but like I think that this match is still very winnable for the
Oh
Mudkips, at
yeah.
least until this
I mean, if
turn,
anything,
right?
like I
Like
mean, I think with like how low Ting Lu is and like Jugulus just being so scary that like there's some RNG involved, but like I would argue that they're probably a little bit ahead here. Um, with just the stalling game, like if they can just keep getting like free switches and like free pivots into like Jugulus, like I'm not going to be able to stand up that much longer.
yeah, but I mean it's like I would think it was a bad play, even if you didn't have Thunder Wave, even if you
Oh
hadn't
yeah,
revealed it yet. But like, I just like there's no like what is this going to accomplish? This going to be positive? I mean, maybe you can belly drum up and still outspeed the Slowbro after like paralysis and then kill the Slowbro, but like then your win con is like paralyzed and useless. You know, like it's I just I think that this is very early, especially because your switch was free. It was a slow pivot, so you could go literally anything you wanted. You had a Jugulus that could have got off a free spec Dark Pulse. You had a Braylon that could have got off, like maybe would have busted your sash, but you could have got off, a pretty free Bullet Seed. I personally think Jugulus would have been the obvious
oh
play
yeah,
there,
yeah. I
in
mean,
my opinion.
I agree with you there, and I think kind of going back to what we were talking about, like I think the other thing that like it as a less experienced coach, it's easy to get. I definitely in like my first couple of seasons, this happened. Like it's easy to get like tunnel vision on your strategy, or like the immediate opportunities and not think about kind of like the long-term repercussions. So it's easy to say like, all right, my plan is to set up and just steamroll with Satitan. This is like I just got fresh hail. Like maybe he just wasn't thinking about remembering the thunder wave. But like I can see how you can just be like, oh well, like here's a chance to get into Titan, and you just kind of go for it without thinking of all the specific chip that you need on any other mons on the other side. What could go wrong with this play that like definitely I would get tunnel vision, especially with setup sweepers, when I was less experienced.
Yeah, and like going back to what I was saying about trying to win versus trying not to lose, like if I'm the Mudkips, I'm definitely trying to win this match. I'm playing the back to back defending champ that I just beat a week ago, and like I would go in here assuming that, hey, like I know this Titan worked pretty well last time, but like I would assume that they would do something for it. And like for me, like the way I look at setup sweepers, and like this is why I don't know if you guys like how many people have been following my matches, but like I've brought Dragonite a few times, it hasn't really done much, but
Yeah,
like for me, if I have a great setup sweeper and I can win the match without the setup sweeper, I'm like, okay, that's amazing because I didn't even need to bring out the setup sweeper. Like if I
yeah,
was him, I would want all four Pokemon down, only slow King left, and because I want my other four Pokemon to do whatever they can to put my setup sweeper in a position to succeed before I have to bring it out. So
yeah. But like I said, like I mean, I think it's easy, to get tunnel vision, and bringing it in is unfortunate, but really the actual mistake is he just stays in and goes right for the belly drum against the bro that has seen has T-Wave, and like I'm so happy with this. Like that is the biggest problem, just so neutered right now, as everything except Ting-Lu and Bro now outspeed it even in snow. So like it's another thing that like kind of getting that into that thing about tunnel vision, that you can also, and we kind of talked about it before, kind of like with the hurricanes at the start of the match, like it's easy to feel kind of locked into a game plan, like overcommit to something.
yeah,
And like if you switch into Side Titan here and then like you realize, whoops, maybe not, like he has other effective doubles he could go out into
yeah.
um
I
here.
mean, honestly, like if I was him and I was like, oh crap, I forgot about the Thunder Wave, I would have literally just gone back Slow King. Like I
Yeah,
know it kind of makes
there's
you, and
literally
like
no
it
reason not to.
like
um
I know it makes you look a little dumb, but like you could chilly reception again. You're gonna absorb the T wave. You could chilly reception again, get a free pivot, and like you just like whoops, my bad. and you don't really lose anything besides a couple hail turns, so.
Yep, but this is where he is at, and it's he definitely still has room to do a lot of damage here. And
Yeah.
he's going to make a big commitment, go for the Terra, and he's paralyzed. And this was actually a little bit of an oopsie on my part. He goes for the Terra Fairy, which, looking at the calc, is a 43.8% chance to Oko me. Unfortunately, he gets parried. But I just forgot to consider Terra for this one turn. Like I remember like doing the calc before the match, like okay, I take like 87% like max from something. And like looking at it in hindsight, I definitely should have just sacked Ting Lu here because Adamant Terrastalize is 100% chance to KO. That I just didn't think about because like, well, he's paralyzed, is gonna waste the Terra. I already know like I take things pretty well, like uh I can just get off more damage after he's already brought himself lower with Belly Drum, but definitely this was the para definitely potentially saved my bacon here.
I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit of justice for the Shadow Ball thing, but I mean, like, again, like, even say he did hit you and get the roll, right? I still think that, like, I think you would definitely have the upper hand moving forward.
Yep.
You could easily revenge it, and like, it's not like, I think the only plausible win con on the team would be like Breloom, in my opinion, because like there's still stuff that you need to break through, but.
Yep. All right, well, now I see the Terra, I realize that, and now I go out and I sack the Ting Lu to the player up, giving the first KO of the match here over to them. I just bring Moth, it deals with Titan without needing to Terra, so, like, it's just pretty free to send out here, and just it's good against like hitting pretty much anything against the Slow King, which I'm not particularly worried about, and the Clodsire. So feeling pretty good about that there.
No, I definitely think it's a good choice. It's an easy revenge kill. You can probably take the ice shard relatively well, and then you can get good chip damage off on anything. Like again, like I think flamethrower is I don't honestly I don't remember what move you click, but like flamethrower is very free besides for the Slow King, and the Slow King isn't really doing too much. So.
Yep. And he's going to go for the Ice Shard there for the chip, and unfortunately gets parried again as the Flamethrower just takes it out. And now Clodsire is in the special wall. Obviously, I'm not going to stay in here. I'm going to be doing basically nothing to that thing. So I'm going to switch to Mence here, expecting a ground move, and then, maybe have a chance to set up here with that Lumberry. Pretty unfortunate about that paralysis. I'm trying to... Do I still have the calcs pulled up? Let's see. Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, so that ice shard was going to be doing 55 to 65 to me. So that would have been really nice chip to get off before before going down there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, hey, that's what happens when you get paralyzed. 25% is a pretty
And I
pretty
mean,
large
like, also,
chance.
like,
So
I mean, like, that's definitely, like, the right call to, like, go for it. I think, like, he already has the belly drum up. He's paralyzed already. Like, he is really just looking to get as much out of that Mon as he can right
oh
now.
yeah, no, I definitely think it's the right play. I mean, like, what are you gonna do with a
Oh, yeah.
paralyzed 40% to Titan? So
Yep.
like,
Okay, so like I said, I'm going in here expecting, I don't know, maybe he makes a prediction and goes for a toxic, maybe he sets up a hazard or something. I get off the Intimidate, and, oh, well, there's the reveal of the Stone Edge, getting a nice crit through the Intimidate. Tyler is good at hitting inaccurate moves today, and getting secondary effects, it would seem.
yeah,
So, like, definitely I was not expecting this at all, and that's really, really good tech by him.
yeah, no, I think it's a great tech because I think like he might have in your mind like I think it's clear that Clodsire might seem set up bait a little bit, and it's good to just kind of get that hit off, and even without the crit, it would probably be close to a hit KO or to a KO.
Yeah.
So
And, like, even if, like, it isn't, like, I really then have to think about the crit real hard for the
Mhm.
follow-up turn.
Yeah.
Um, So I want to preserve Mence here, so I'm gonna just switch out to Bro. He makes the good play going for the safe Toxic. Honestly, like I'm not thrilled to get that on Slow Bro, but with the Titan Belly Drum threat out of the way, like I'm now okay getting a Toxic on the Slow Bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's where you kind of see like the commitment to this Titan maybe not going super well because like I just think that there was too many like there was the coming in, there was the staying in with the Thunderwave and belly drumming, and then there was the Terra-ing, right? Because like I think you could maybe do something with this Clodsire, like if you Terra Water here, so you can tank whatever the Slowbro does and try and toxic stall a little bit. Like I think that's like a plausible thing.
Yeah, no,
I
I mean,
do
yeah, you look
appreciate.
at this thing, I had brought, like Mold Breaker set up Halucha before to set up through Unaware, but like outside of like that potential thing, I mean, it can't toxic stall Iron Moth, but even with the weakness, it's probably not taking that much from an energy ball, and like it can just safely toxic stall everything else if it's Terra Water. Just
Yeah,
has to see how far it can actually go before it runs out of recovers.
yeah, I do appreciate the level of aggressiveness though now on the Mudkip side. It's like I think it's important when you're down, which I think that they would definitely be down at this point because their sweeper kind of busted. That you got to make the aggressive predictions like the toxic. So I think that's a very good play though.
Oh, definitely. So I'm going to go here for Serve to cover a Jugulus switching in or scout a move while putting it in range of a Psyshock, but I also confirm the ability here as Unaware, which I was expecting. And Tyler just goes for the recover right away to start stalling me out here. So, well, we said it can toxic stall some things, and well, it's just going for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably what they have to do here. I would maybe predict another recover next turn, or or maybe not. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think when you're down, sometimes you got to be a little aggressive. And I know you have the side shock, so you can probably two hit him after the thing. But maybe he's thinking, oh, okay, I don't want to waste all of my recover PP, so I'm going to go for an E2
Yeah, I mean,
here.
I
I
think Psyshock with, like after left I'm doing like 65 maxed him, so after lefties, like I'm not making much progress on him.
yeah,
Um but
I
we're gonna see that here, um I do make that play. I do predict the recover. He's going to switch into Slowking here. I'm expecting him to just stall for me, so I go for the Terra Psyshock, which would have threatened the KO next turn even after the recover. So I'm expecting that recover. He doesn't go for the recover this turn, and I'm worried that I just wasted my Terra.
Yeah, but those are the kind of things you could do when you're ahead.
Yep.
I actually like the play on his part a lot, though, because I think the chili reception free switch would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I would maybe chili reception and go Iron Jugulus, get off a Dark Pulse or something, or if you go something faster, maybe preach a little around that. But I think
Yeah.
it's a good play.
All right, so I can't let Toxic just keep racking up here. So I'm gonna go out into Halucha, who can get some chip and also heal as he goes for a Shadow Ball and doesn't get this Pedef drop, does get another crit, which does reveal that I'm bulky. Also not revealing that I'm not Mold Breaker here. But definitely, like you said, like he definitely 100% should have Chili Reception out there. Like anything I go into short of Chi and Pao, like Jugulus is just getting ready to feast on it pretty much. Well, except for my moth, I guess. But
Yeah.
like, was I going to switch it in here? Honestly, I mean, I did before. So, but I
Well,
still,
but
like
I
you
mean,
said,
like
I think
even
you
if
got to be
you
aggressive.
did go Moth, he would have had the switch advantage, and he could have just gone Clodsire. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. So definitely something that he could have been more aggressive there with the pivoting. So he's gonna switch out into Clodsire here. And I'm just gonna roost it back up to full. Like that makes sense. Nothing
yeah.
else really wants to take much of a hit. Breloom doesn't want to be in against this. Uh, Jugulus doesn't want to take an attack. Slowking isn't really doing anything to me. Clodsire can at least like get off a toxic or something.
Yep, no, I agree. I mean, I think you're right to Roost and just stay in, and I think Clodsire is a reasonable switch. So
No, and we see here that I'm going for chip. Don't get that much, but I'm really just trying to kind of scout a little bit. Probably should have U-turned, but whatever. Not a big thing. He gets a toxic on my wall, but I'm just free to U-turn out here next turn. Um,
yep,
yeah, and I'm
I
gonna.
think
Yep. No, go ahead.
I would say yeah, I think the U turn is good. I would Slowbro is a great switch in. Pretty free. You can just go for spamming surf on stuff. So
Exactly. And you're actually going to see I'm going to U-turn out here into Mence, predicting a recover. I was
okay.
predicting that recover, and I U-turn out to Mence because what I'm concerned about is, like the Slowbro keeping that healthy for, like Great Tusk, the uh Breloom, now that I'm not weak to grass and I can't be spored because I'm poisoned. And really all I care about is like looking at how kind of low some of the things are getting. I'm starting to see how good both Qianpao and Moth look. And I'm just looking to get chip that's going to stick on this Quagsire. Or not this Clodsire. So I'm just trying to get stuff to I'm low, so like, am I gonna get that much chance to set up? Probably not, but like, I can still smack things with earthquakes. So that's why I went out into Mence here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable looking at it. And then because like I mean, what you EQ you'll do like 70%, and then he might kill you, but then you can just revenge it. So
Exactly. And like, yeah, I just need to not give it, that much time to, like just be clicking recover. So I am going to here go for the earthquake, get huge damage there, 80%. As I live the stone edge there, he doesn't get the crit that time, but he does still hit.
mhm.
Actually, and I looked at that calc, and I barely survived there, but that was actually never a KO without a crit. After the intimidate, I was guaranteed to live on at least 1%.
Nice.
Which definitely not something I was thinking about. I was expecting to just potentially go down here, or just start stalling out all of his recovers.
Mhm.
Um, so like I said, I just need Chip to stick on this thing, and suddenly all my other things can start breaking through it.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
And so we're gonna see he's gonna switch here into Slow King, trying to eat a hit, but I see the dual wing beat is going to KO Clodsire easily from that range. Uh, and it covers anything that wants to switch in. So I just go for the safe wheel with double wing beat. Luckily, hit it, and I do pretty good damage here to Slow King as it comes
Yeah,
in.
yeah, I think that's a good play. I would honestly probably just do a wing beat again. And then if I was him, I'd maybe chili reception, but I don't, I don't think he's in a great position at this point.
Yeah.
So
So I'm actually we're going to see here, I'm going to, since I know this thing set, I'm going to switch into Iron Moth, since I know it can't touch it. He's parried. I would assume, just knowing how he's been playing, that he probably went for the Shadow Ball there, just to try and get the KO on Mence.
yeah.
But like you said, like, chili reception would have been good too. At that point, like, I'm going to be dying to, like, Breloom Mach Punch or something, but
Mhm.
I see that I know this Slowking can't touch this Iron Moth, and with Clodsire so low, I really don't care what he could have chili receptioned out into. I've got kind
Mhm.
of an answer for anything here, and actually looking at it here, at this point I look at it closer, and Energy Ball. I actually force him to take a sack here with Energy Ball because it two shots anything that switches in besides Breloom, but that would be breaking the potential sash, and Halucha can always switch in, while stalling out any slack offs if I just keep spamming Energy Ball. So like this thing, like I'm happy to just start spamming Energy Ball here.
Yep,
Um,
I agree. Clicking
yeah,
buttons is always good.
and you're gonna see that, like, all right, now it is I who get the special defense drop as he just scouts with the recover. Generally, like that'd be fine. The only thing is like if he got parrot or something, or I got a Spadef drop. But like generally, like that was a fine play. And then here, like he definitely with the Spadef drop, he has to make the tough decision. He wants to preserve Breloom's Sash for Qian Pao, but anything else will go down to a pair of energy balls. So like I kind of going through this match, after I played it, but before we're recording this, like looking it up, if he goes to Breloom, he opens up Chien Pao aside from a very healthy Great Tusk, but he doesn't know my moveset. He doesn't know that I don't have Ice Spinner. He doesn't know that I'm not banded. So like I can definitely see really wanting to preserve that sash. Great Tusk can't really touch Hawlucha or Slowbro and takes big damage from my other three mons. Clodsire is his wall for this Iron Moth and can stall Hawlucha if it can get a recover off. Jugulus threatens everything but is low and is scared of Moth and Chien-Pao. Slowking is a very useful pivoter who can Toxic Stall Slowbro, who's right now really only threatened by the Jugulus. So it's actually like I don't know what I switch to if I'm him here.
Yeah, I think I probably would have either sacked the Slow King. Like I know you can Toxic Stall with it a little bit, but like I think the paralysis is just really hard to deal with, or even the Jugulus. I mean, I know Jugulus is very spammable, but like I think it's just like the Chien-Pao outspeeds the Moth. The Moth is outspeeds and KOs, so but
Yeah, so it's a real tough decision for him to be here, and we're going to see here. He goes into the Great Tusk and takes 87% there. I know in the match, he immediately went, "Wait, why the heck did I do that? That was stupid." And yeah, definitely not the play I would have made. But like I said, like in hindsight, like there was a big drawback to literally letting anything take that energy ball.
yeah.
And with this Great Tusk really being his Chien Pao answer if Breloom's sash is broken, and still having the sash Breloom as a Chien Pao answer, like I don't think, like, just seeing like him basically sack a full health Great Tusk here looks terrible, but actually in hindsight I don't think it's as bad as it looks.
Um, I definitely don't think it's a great play. Like I think the Great Tusk had some sweeping potential left as well, though, which
Oh
is maybe
yeah.
one of the things I would have kept it for because you could rapid spin and then EQ. Um, like I could see Great Tusk doing semi okay if you got rid of slow bro, which I mean is a very hypothetical, but I think any sort of win cons that you're looking at this point from the Mudkip side are pretty far out there. So
Yep. So, but unfortunately, he did go into that. I'm just gonna take my KO there. He has to sack it. It's pretty much now, but now he gets to go into the Jugulus, which is, I think, a little risky. I mean, well, it would be risky if I wasn't Scarf, and I don't think I've done anything that like hard reveals the Scarf. But I don't think it's at all crazy, especially if you're behind. You need to kind of make some predictions.
yeah.
And like I think it's fine to just think that I'm Scarfed here.
Mhm.
Um, and like honestly, if I'm not scarfed, then nothing. I guess Breloom going down to one to a flamethrower and getting off a spore is the best he can hope for.
Yeah.
So like this is perfectly fine, I think. And we're gonna see here. I'm gonna go to sack to Ment. I'm just gonna try and sack my very low HP Mets, and he actually goes to Clodsire, which is strange. Um, I don't really know why. If I wasn't locked into Energy Ball and went for the KO there, Claude would have been just easily two-shot switching in here, and it's definitely not healthy enough to touch anything else I could be going into. So I think he really should have just gone for Dark Pulse or go into Slowking to try and scout.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, like, but the because like if he's hard reading the scarf and like that you'll switch out like why basically try and sack the Clodsire or so.
Okay, so here we see that he's going to now switch to Slowking to preserve the Clod. It's a free dual wing beat for me, and we're going to see right after this, dual wing beat misses, and he's parried, so forget about it. That turn did not actually happen.
Hey, he got that 6% leftovers recover though. It's a
Yo,
big turn.
true, he got the clutch lefties recovery. Never run dual wing beat, people. It gives your opponent opportunity for lefties recovery. But looking here, dual wing beat is still absolutely free for me here. Just go for it, keeping this thing very low now, as he does just go for the KO there. But have known for a while that this thing is just set up fodder for Chien Pao here. This is just the freest sword stance of my life.
Yeah.
And he's going to go for a protect there, probably trying to scout a banded move like I was last time, but he's parried, although not that that para actually meant anything, as, like I said, that's just a free swords dance, and at this point, it could be game. I know especially because he's kept that Breloom in the back so long that it's not unlikely that it is Sash. But if it isn't, this is definitely game. Everything dies to ice shards and crunches. Um, so we'll see how he responds to that here. He's gonna sack the Slow King, easily goes down to the crunch, and Breloom comes out. So I have a little bit of a choice to make here. I can either attempt to go for the game if he isn't Focus Sash, and do I take that risk? I'm definitely, thinking, all right, if it's Sash, well, what happens? And I think that if I bring it down to its Sash and it KOs me with uh, Mach Punch, then I think that I just have the Pokemon in the back that his team's weak enough that I can just still go through it. So, even if, I don't know, I could preserve differential, but, what does that matter? It's just go for it and see if it pays off.
Yeah, I mean, I think Iron Moth is a pretty free. Like, I think Flamethrower would be a pretty free sleep. I don't know if it actually OHKOs the Clodsire, but like I think you have a pretty good
I
visual
think
on
it.
Iron Moth.
I think it might be a roll from where it's at. But it definitely
Okay.
like nothing can switch into it for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to risk the Ice Shard. It does reveal the Sash. It does KO with the Mach Punch. But I actually make a little bit. I go here, make a little bit of a misplay going into the Halucha because, like I said, I think basically Moth could have won. I think I might have gone for have needed to go for overheats, but Jugulus still dies to a -2 overheat. Of course, this thing dies to an overheat. Clodsire is unaware. It means it doesn't even pay attention to my stat drops, my special attack drops either, so it goes down to an overheat. Um, but like
Yeah.
Halucha is also fine because I have an excellent follow up here play that I could make, and you'll see he just goes for the Mach Punch chip, and I make the wrong play.
Yeah, I would have probably U-turned there,
U-turn
right?
again. U-turn is 100% because U-turn I just go into Moth, and like I said, everything dies to overheat. And instead I just get tunnel vision. I just see the KO. I take it, and now you're gonna see that means I have to sack Halucha. So again, not the end of the world for me, but another one of those things that like definitely less experienced coaches um can stand to learn that like no matter how far ahead you are, like don't stop thinking about the match, don't stop thinking about the
Hmm.
positioning.
Yeah.
Because even if it doesn't lose you a match, like today, like one day it will.
Hmm.
So we're going to see that I had to sack it down there, but now I can just go out here, go for the flamethrower. I get the KO. Clodsire is out. Flamethrower doesn't KO here, so I switch to Bro. He gets the recover up. And I felt bad about the Psychic Terra earlier, but it's coming in handy here, doing huge damage. No way it's living after any more recoveries to stall me out, and that's going to be the game 2-0 in my favor. I didn't play great, but I think I played pretty well. Tyler really could have pressured me at several points, especially in kind of that early to mid game with, pivoting out into the Jugulus instead. But without him pivoting as much, like kind of like I said, like it was all about positioning, making sure that Titan didn't get in when I didn't have an answer to it out. Um, and there we go. Tyler had a lot of luck with that stupid Slow King, but I got a couple nice pairs, and I think it kind of evened out in the end. But yeah, that getting that T Wave on the Titan was really what made it a huge uphill battle for Tyler, I think.
Yeah, no, and honestly think that Tyler played it really well, but like I think that a lot of matches really come down to, like a couple of turns. Like, I mean, like really, I think this match kind of came down to one turn, which was sending this to Titan out too early. Like, obviously, you can point to later in the match, I think the great tuss switch was a little questionable, but I think the only really like egregious thing would have been the Titan thing coming out. I also think that like the Mudkips maybe leaned a little too much on the Slow King trying to do offensive things with Shadow Ball. Like, obviously they got a little bit lucky at the beginning with the Spidef drops, but like I think there was a few turns where a pivot would have been a lot more useful than going for a Spidef drop. I do think like this is one thing that I talk about a lot, and like I don't think that Pokemon ratio is necessarily the best indication of how close a match is, right? Because I mean it looks like a 2-0 match, and like I think it was competitive at the beginning, but I wouldn't, I think that I don't think this was a particularly close match after the.
There's a difference between like there's a close match in like numbers, but like I felt after that T wave, I felt in control pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game, and I think it's definitely cool that they did this well. I mean, like I know it may seem kind of weird to say, but I think it's honestly even a little more impressive that like they won last week and then they had a somewhat close match this week, because like I think like I think it's hard to fight rematches, especially
Oh,
against like
100%.
coaches who are historically good. So like I'm very interested to see what they'll do kind of moving forward in the league, especially
I
because
also
they're one of
think,
the new.
like, little with this win, that means you and I are squaring off next. And I do think, like, talking about rematches, I think I'm way more comfortable going into a rematch that I have lost that season than I have won. I
Yeah.
think there's so much less to think about. You feel so more free, and as the winner, there's so much pressure to do what worked last time,
Hmm.
and you don't want to just like it worked. You don't want to just completely throw all of that out the window, but at the same time, you gotta respect your opponent and go like, all right, well, this isn't going to work as well as it worked. What are my other options?
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, you could always do it my way just by trading half your team in the middle of the season. Then you don't have to worry about
That
like
that
bringing the
does
exact same thing.
why do
But
people keep trading you good mons?
honestly, I don't think I do that. Hey, you had the offer to have the great Clef Key, which I still think is a very good mod. But I honestly, I really like the Tauros. Like, I can't believe
I
that
that
was in
is
free
like
agency.
the elemental tauruses are maybe my favorite mons introduced in Gen 9. I just think they're so solid and really just kind of underappreciated.
Yeah.
Definitely if I didn't grab Slowbro earlier, I was thinking about
Hmm.
that water Tauros for a
Yeah.
water type later on.
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, I hope our match goes okay. Hopefully not as embarrassing to me as the last one.
Well,
But
we'll see. I will say the closer it gets to the match, the more there's like a nagging part of my brain that's like, he was hustling you with that match the entire time. He
I
intentionally didn't
definitely,
bring Drizzle.
yeah. Well, I definitely wasn't, but I appreciate that you would think that it was some 4D chess move. So,
But
but
yeah, but like, what a way to kick off the playoffs here. Great match. Looking forward to some more great matches. Thank you for joining me so much today. And wow, we have talked their ear off with this one, but I've been enjoying it.
yeah, no problem. I had a good time too. Like, it was good to talk about the battle.
Yeah.
So,
All
but
right. Well, thank you as well to Tyler for the great game and to you for watching. Go ahead and like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, as well as check out the description for some content from some of our coaches. But I think that's it from us today, and thanks again for joining me, Chad, and I'll see y'all in next week's feature match.